Welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show where we round up the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. F1 is all set to start up again after the summer break, so the stories have been coming in thick and fast. This week, we're looking into who is likely to get the second Sauber seat in 2025, a potential comeback for the German Grand Prix, and the real reason why Red Bull has lost their pace advantage. All that and a whole lot more coming up right now.
So, Sebastian Vettel is apparently in the running for a seat at Audi. Now, we already brought you a story earlier this season going into how he could make a comeback for Mercedes, and that's pretty much not going to happen now. Look, it's looking certain as though Kimi Antonelli is going to be the second driver at that Mercedes team next season. But there is still a Audi seat up for grabs. There is still a second Sauber seat that's unfilled for next season. So is he going to get it? Well, I already brought you a story kind of going into the scenarios of why and how that could happen. But let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of the specifics because some people in the sport have had their kind of say on things. So, two Germans are reportedly near the top of team owner Audi's list to join Nico Hülkenberg next year at Sauber. The Sun newspaper in Britain believes that Mick Schumacher is reportedly being seriously considered for the role. If you know anything about that newspaper, I don't need to say any more. But Dr. Helmut Marko told Österreich newspaper this week that retired quadruple world champion Sebastian Vettel is reportedly pushing for a return to Formula 1. Vettel harmonised perfectly with Jonathan Wheatley at Red Bull in the past. Of course, it all fits together. It all makes sense now. Yeah, I forgot that. I forgot they worked together at Red Bull. And he also knows Mattia Binotto from his time at Ferrari. It all fits together. The jigsaw pieces are falling into place. Another obvious candidate is Sauber incumbent Valtteri Bottas, who is currently in California, and he posted a photo of himself alongside an Audi R8 emblazoned with his race number 77. It seems like more than a coincidence, guys, I'll be honest. That is a weird one for sure. But then again, this is a guy that's known for posting nude pictures of himself online. Need I say any more? That's for a nude calendar, by the way. Don't get any ideas. Don't go looking up other ones. Yeah. Earlier, the Finn said he hoped Binotto's arrival as boss might change the course of his 2025 contract talks. It's going to reset the talks a bit, he said, because we have previously been in communication with Andreas and Oliver, it's now time to speak to Mattia. So yeah, for sure that will change some things, so we need to speak. Fellow Finn and former Formula 1 driver Mika Salo also thinks that Bottas is still in with a chance of retaining his seat, having been a part of the transition from Sauber to Audi so far. Salo said, "When I moved to Toyota, nothing really existed. It wasn't easy, and then I got fired in the middle of it all. I hope Valtteri will be able to reap the benefits." Not sure forgot about though, but yeah, it's a bit sad for you, but yeah, Alpine is still being speculated, but I don't really see any point in moving there. I agree. It would be better if he could continue where he is already. I saw him in Hungary, but I didn't bother to ask him about this because I knew he wouldn't tell me anything anyway. A very Finnish response there, but yeah. I would love to see Seb back, but only if it's on his terms and only if it's, for a team that could do well. He's only going to come back for a top team because he's already won everything. He's got 4 championships, one of the most successful drivers in the sports history. Whether he's one of the best or not, we can debate that another time, but he'd only come back for a top team or a project that he feels like is going to be, the right one for him. He's not going to come back to go to an Alpine that's in chaos, or, he wouldn't be going to Sauber normally, but because the Audi money is coming in, things could change. Things could change definitely. And at the end of the day, he's still relatively young. He's still someone who can come back into Formula 1. Yeah, he's on the older side of being in a career, but he's not he won't be the oldest guy on the grid. Hamilton and Alonso are both older than him. In fact, Bottas is only a few years younger than him. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if Vettel comes back. I think it would be an absolute media storm and a half if that did happen, and we'll be here to cover it on the F1Chronicle.com as always, guys. So please subscribe, share, comment, follow, like, all that good stuff, and ring the bell as well to see all of our videos here on the F1Chronicle.com. And of course, we'll be back very soon for some more content, guys. So yeah, Dutch Grand Prix is coming up. Feeling excited? Let's go.
Got a bit of a spicy article here from Isaac Hadjar. At least it seems like it from the headline on F1Chronicle.com. He's come out and said RB is a junior team for a reason. So for those that don't know, Isaac Hadjar is a Red Bull junior. He has tested the Red Bull car. I think he's also probably tested the RB car as well. He's currently leading the Formula 2 Championship, and therefore
is looking likely to be able to push to be able to be driving for RB next season. Now, of course, he has a lot of competition for this. Liam Lawson's big competition because he's a direct kind of reserve driver for Red Bull. And on top of that, Daniel Ricciardo is there as well, and Yuki Tsunoda looks like he's not going to get that promotion to Red Bull anytime soon. So Isaac Hadjar is kind of fourth choice for that seat, really, and he's looking to be a bit frustrated because despite him doing so well in F2 this season, it looks like he might not be in Formula 1 just yet. He might have to wait a few years, which I can understand his frustration if that's the case. But let's have a look at what he said here. So, F2 Championship leader Isaac Hadjar had hinted that he thinks Red Bull should promote him to the big leagues sooner rather than later. Currently, the lineup at Red Bull's second team RB is Yuki Tsunoda along with 35-year-old Daniel Ricciardo. Dutch racing personality Tom Coronel thinks the team should be waving goodbye to Ricciardo at the end of the season. He said, and I quote, "Ricciardo 2.0, who learned from his mistakes, blah blah blah, is a nice story, but he just can't do it anymore. He didn't succeed at McLaren, he didn't succeed at AlphaTauri, and he will never succeed again." Oh, Tom, oh. I mean, there's harsh assessments and then there's that. I feel like it's very harsh on the guy, but I don't completely disagree. He was terrible at McLaren. The car just did not suit him. It did not suit that team. I don't know why, it just did not work out for him. I mean, he succeeded at Red Bull back in the day. In my opinion, he did a pretty good job at Renault when he was there too. He was fine with AlphaTauri, but I don't think he's done particularly better than what Liam Lawson would have done. And that's what kind of annoys me a little bit about him being there, because what Hadjar is saying is correct. What Marco has said as well, Dr. Helmut Marko, of course, the Red Bull advisor, he's come out and said that RB should be the junior team again. That's what it was originally designed to be. Not necessarily be a second Red Bull team, but be the Red Bull B team. So as the sunlight comes and illuminates me, just to make my point even more, God himself is agreeing with me, allegedly. Anyway, let's take religion out of this. He is an ideal commentator or analysis for motorsport. He's funny, he has flair, he can handle anything well. Go ahead and do that, but stop with F1. This is Tom Coronel still. He has no business with a development team anyway. F1 is for the 20 best drivers in the world, and he hasn't been part of that for a long time. I mean, I think Ricciardo could well be one of the 20 best drivers in the world. I think he could be. I mean, he's better than Lance Stroll, he's better than Logan Sargent, he's better than Guan Yu Zhou. He's better than quite a few of the drivers on the grid, to be honest. Again, I think that's really harsh from Coronel. If RB does oust Ricciardo at the end of the season, Liam Lawson is the obvious successor, and he should be, because he did a very good job last season when he was stepping in for a stand-in already. You know, the stand-in for the stand-in. There we go. The F2 Series leader Hadjar, a French-Algerian driver, is also a prominent Red Bull junior. When asked if he thinks a seat should open him up from next season, he's 19 years old, wow. The 19-year-old answered, "To begin with, I don't know. But if the junior team and the B team exist, it's for a reason, and then we can see very well what's happening at the moment. With the driver market moving a lot," Hadjar told the Red Bulletin in his native French tongue. "The only thing I can do is show up every weekend. If a move to F1 doesn't work out, a spot might open up among Red Bull's 4 race seats in 2026. With former F1 team boss Eddie Jordan, EJ, is convinced that a move to Mercedes for Verstappen remains a big possibility." I love EJ, but yeah, take what he says with many pinches of salt. The unrest at Red Bull and the departure of Adrian Newey and Jonathan Wheatley cannot be pleasing Max Verstappen and his father. Also, Mercedes has turned a corner and is generally getting stronger and stronger, so I'd be anything but surprised if Max moved to Mercedes in 26. I don't think he will go to Mercedes in 26 personally. I think it's possible, but unlikely. I just think that Verstappen's personality doesn't fit in with the Mercedes brand, to be honest. I think it struggles to fit in with the Red Bull brand as well, but he is Red Bull at the moment, really. What's going to happen with this one? Well, Hadjar should be given a chance in F1, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt. If you win the F2 Championship, you should be given an F1 seat, in my opinion. But Teo Pourchaire hasn't come to F1 yet. Felipe Drugovich hasn't made it to F1 yet either, so it is far from a guarantee. I think Liam Lawson should be in the RB car next year alongside Yuki Tsunoda. But what happens to Perez in that Red Bull seat is still anybody's guess. Do you put Ricciardo in there instead of him? I doubt it. But then again, why did Red Bull bring him back if they weren't going to do that potentially? I don't know. I don't think they know. That's the problem. Should Yuki Tsunoda go next year to Red Bull, the senior team? Possibly, yeah, possibly. And if that happens, then you're probably going to see Isaac Hadjar alongside Liam Lawson in the RB car. So I think that's the most likely scenario. If Perez doesn't perform in the second half of the season and Red Bull lose the Constructors' Championship, then I think that you could well see Yuki Tsunoda alongside Max Verstappen next year in 2025, and then you get Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar in the RB in an all sort of rookie, it'd be Lawson's first full season, not his first Formula 1 action. But unless that happens, I don't think Hadjar's going to get in 25. 26 is more possible because then I think potentially you've got Yuki Tsunoda going to Aston Martin. I think I can genuinely see him going to Aston Martin because of the Honda connection. But whether Lance Stroll will be ousted from that team by his dad, that is very much up for debate. And he has a contract, so I don't think he will, to be honest. So those are my thoughts on it, guys. An interesting scenario for Hadjar. Do you think he should be in F1 next year? Can you see him in F1 next year? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed, follow, share, like, comment, all that good stuff on the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content just like this.
Good news, everyone. Looks like the German Grand Prix might be coming back onto the calendar, which is a huge surprise given the recent news in Formula 1 with some of the tracks trying to get on the calendar and some of the circuits that are already on the calendar really struggling to maintain their place. But Hockenheim has some new owners and they're proceeding very cautiously. They're trying to think about getting the German Grand Prix back on the Formula 1 calendar. Well, let's have a look. Let's have a look what's been said here. So, the new 75% owners of the Hockenheim circuit say they're proceeding with great caution in trying to revive the German Grand Prix. In April, investment group Emodrome revealed that 5 medium-sized companies had purchased most of the historic Formula 1 circuit for €5.5 million, also making them responsible for about €20 million of debt. Shows you what a state the circuit was in at that point. Die Welt newspaper now says the local council has fully approved the deal. Of course, we are also thinking about Formula 1, said Emodrome's group managing director, Tim Brower. We will not embark on any financial adventures, but we will also try to find models for how we can bring Formula 1 back to Germany. Hockenheim's last Grand Prix was held in 2019, and F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali has said multiple times since then that he would like to see the sport return. We have never broken off contact and talks with Formula 1, explained the Hockenheim boss Jorn Teske. But we are taking things slowly and seriously. We have to make sure that we do not run a deficit. That is why we are initially concentrating on other projects. We are thinking about cycles of 20 to 25 years, not in the short term. Winning over Domenicali and F1 owner Liberty Media, however, would almost certainly require investment to dramatically upgrade the Hockenheim facility. I have already been in contact with the new investors, revealed to Hermann Tilke. Of course, Hermann Tilke. Now, so if you don't know Hermann Tilke, he is the guy who Formula 1 pretty much exclusively goes to design its Formula 1 circuits. And I believe Tilke was the person who renovated the circuit from its old circuit. Because, the old Hockenheim ring was a very different track. It was a bit like Monza with several very long straights going into the forest and then coming back. It was changed in 2002, and I believe Tilke was the guy to do it. He was certainly doing all the new circuits around that time, like China, Bahrain, and Malaysia as well. But yeah, Hermann Tilke is the most well-known Formula 1 circuit designer, of course. It would be great if we could hold a Formula 1 race there again in Germany. But Formula 1 today requires additional criteria, not just a decent racetrack. Instead of 2,000, you now need at least 4,000 to 5,000 VIP seats, fan zones, space for concerts, tents, kitchens, and so on. Tilke estimates that the new pit building alone would cost the track around €50 million. And you compare that to buying the circuit in the first place for 5.5, albeit only 75% of it and with 20 million of debt. But even if you factor in that debt, that's less than 30 million euros, which is like 3/5 of the cost of the actual pit building itself. That's a lot. There would be enough space for it, he added, and the track itself is absolutely suitable for Formula 1. Yeah, I mean, it's still a Grade 1 circuit, I believe, Hockenheim, and that is the ultimate criteria for hosting a Grand Prix. You have to be a Grade 1 circuit. On top of that, now we're seeing that tracks are being severely and very expensively renovated to keep up with Formula One's demands. I mean, Monza just passed the deadline recently to be able to host the Grand Prix in Italy this year. It's also got to pass another one for 2026. You've got Hungary, which has pretty much destroyed its entire pit building. Silverstone has had massive renovations recently, so has Spa as well. Hockenheim would also have to have a lot of renovations. I mean, it's a good track. I like it. I mean, it didn't quite make my list of 5 circuits I want to bring back into F1 because I chose the Nürburgring over it. But still, we've not had a Grand Prix hosted in Germany since 2020, and that was at the Nürburgring. Hockenheim hasn't hosted a Grand Prix in 5 years. Do I think that Germany's going to come back onto the calendar? Honestly, probably not, because the costs overall in F1 just to get the Hockenheim back onto the calendar are huge. And as I've already spoke about with my good friend Owain, and I'm just editing the videos at the moment, they're not quite out yet, they'll probably be out next week. You know, the actual cost of hosting a Grand Prix now is eye-wateringly high, so I don't think that Germany's going to come back onto the calendar anytime soon. I think these new owners are very ambitious and it's a good thing for the track and the local area, but I think they're going to very quickly realise that hosting Formula 1 is not a profitable venture for a circuit like the Hockenheimring. It just isn't. They need a lot of government backing, and I don't think with Germany, with how their economics are at the moment, are going to invest what is probably going to be hundreds of millions of euros in a German Grand Prix. It's not going to be profitable for the government, and it's not going to be profitable for the circuit's new owners, so I don't see it coming back, to be honest. But what do you guys think? Do you think Formula 1 should go back to Germany? Do you think it will go back to Germany for the Hockenheim German Grand Prix? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed here to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more F1 content just like this.
Despite being 40 years of age when he'll start his Ferrari contract next year, Sir Lewis Hamilton is not going to the Scuderia to retire, and that's according to the chairman of Ferrari. There's a full story over on the F1Chronicle.com if you guys want to check it out, but I'll read out as much as I can here in this 5-minute video. You know how we do on this channel, guys. So, the Ferrari chairman, John Elkann, has insisted that Lewis Hamilton is not on a fast track to F1 retirement. The 7-time Formula 1 world champion is going to leave Mercedes at the end of the year to become Charles Leclerc's teammate at Ferrari in 2025. Dr. Helmut Marko has said the following: "It's tragic that he, Carlos Sainz, is having his best season at Ferrari and is not getting a seat at a top team. But apparently there is a clause in his Williams contract that allows him to leave if an offer comes in from a much better placed team." I mean, to be honest, if he was going to go anywhere to a top team, it would have been to Red Bull, but politics have prevented that move happening, really. But yeah, there is that clause as well in Sainz's contract. That is not news. That's something we've covered a few times on here now. That I definitely believe that as well. But yeah, although the nearly 40-year-old Hamilton's talent and success are beyond doubt, some have expressed surprise that Ferrari is changing up its current lineup. Former Formula 1 driver Mark Stewart told motorsporttotal.com that he understands the decision. Leclerc is always on the limit, and perhaps also more nervous than Sainz, who seems more relaxed. But if you want to be world champion, you have to choose the faster one, and that's Leclerc. Yeah, faster, not as consistent, but faster. I'll go along with that. Another factor, however, is Hamilton's age, and the fact that he's regularly talked about it is never ever nearing an inevitable retirement. In a new interview with Esquire magazine, the 39-year-old British driver said, "I do have mentally a plan of where I'd like to be extended to. I've just got to strategize and sequence things." So it's like, how much do you want to train? How can you stay sharp and be able to do all the things you have going on and still be able to compete with those young guns in their 20s? But Elkann insists that he's not worried. We are talking about a great sportsman who is very motivated to become world champion for the 8th time, as the last races have shown. He is certainly not coming to Ferrari to enjoy retirement. And I'll go along with that as well, because, you know, he's always talked about going for that 8th world championship. He did that lie detector test for Sky Sports F1 a while ago, where it was like, oh yeah, are you going for an 8th world title? And he said yes. And he absolutely believes it because he was telling the truth on the lie detector. So yeah, he's not going to Ferrari to retire. He's going to be under more pressure than ever before, in a sense, from Ferrari, and because of the expectation of the team and everything. You know, they're like the national team of Italy. Like he'll feel like there'll be more pressure on his career, really, more scrutiny on his career than ever before, I think. I mean, McLaren are a huge team, don't get me wrong, but, you know, as bad as the British press are, they are not
it's not constructive criticism. In Italy, it's a lot more scrutinised when it comes to the press, so he won't be able to get away with anything. Not that he needs to. There you go. As for Leclerc, he says he's not fazed by the challenge of being paired with one of the greatest Formula 1 drivers of all time. It's going to be a great opportunity to learn from one of the best ever, he told Gentleman's Journal. And second, I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity also for me to show that what I'm capable of. So I'm really looking forward to it. Juan Pablo Montoya, Montoya, always good for a quote. He told F1 Maximal that he doesn't expect the Hamilton-Leclerc combination to clash. He said, I think they're going to build a good relationship. I think it'll be definitely interesting, and it will definitely be interesting to see how Ferrari is going to manage the situation, because Leclerc will want to make a point. Lewis has won 7 world titles. How many wins does Leclerc have? 6 in 6 years? Both drivers will be fascinating to follow. We'll find out. Yeah, and I'll go along with that from Montoya too. I think it's a similar-ish situation to George Russell coming into the team at Mercedes. It's a very different dynamic. You've got someone who's one of the greatest of all time, multiple world champion, and someone's relatively inexperienced and still looking for the first title. So I don't see there being too much clashing there. It's not like Alonso and Hamilton back in the day when they were at McLaren. It's not going to be like that. And I think Hamilton has every chance of getting an 8th world title at Ferrari. I think there's every opportunity for that. Do I think it's likely to happen? No. I'll be honest, no. But I can definitely see it happening. But, if anybody can do it, it's him. And if he wins an 8th world title with Ferrari, then he'll have won titles with teams in 3 different engine formulae. And he'll also have won titles in 3 different decades too. No one's done either of those things. So I'll be fascinated to see how he gets on. I think he's got every chance of winning the world title. But what do you guys think? Is Hamilton going to Ferrari to retire, just pick up a paycheck, or is he going for that 8th world title? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, keep you subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content on F1 just like this.
So people are trying to kind of figure out why Red Bull have dropped off in terms of their pace. After all, it's been a marked turn down in form overall for the Milton Keynes outfit ever since the first 5 races of the season, where Max Verstappen would have won all 5 had it not been for a mechanical issue at the Australian Grand Prix. He's still reaping the benefits of that as well in the Drivers' Championship, where he's got a massive lead that is in part due to how well he was doing in the first part of the season. I mean, if you take, for example, the last 5-6 races or so, you'll find that Sir Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri are both around level, if not slightly ahead, of where Verstappen is in terms of his point scoring in those races. And it's been a real quick downturn in performance, and it's been to a level that we've not really seen too much in F1. Now, I will say that these things can happen, and that Mercedes and McLaren have, regardless of this, done an incredible job to catch up to Red Bull. I don't think that's in any doubt whatsoever, and in fact you could argue that Mercedes, and in my opinion particularly McLaren, have overtaken Red Bull to become the overall fastest car on the grid. Their main problem is that their drivers and their strategists are making some key errors at some key times, but that's what's going to happen when you are in a relatively inexperienced team at winning Grand Prix and winning championships, something that McLaren have not done in over 25 years, like I keep saying. Basically, my entire life I've been waiting for McLaren to win a Constructors' Championship, and it could happen this season. And the downturn in the pace from the Red Bull can't be ignored. I mean, I still think Max is still the hot favourite to win the Drivers' Championship this year. I don't think that's a controversial opinion at all, because he's basically 3 wins ahead at this point with 10 races to go. It's looking more than certain that he's going to get that 4th Drivers' Championship in a row. However, getting a Constructors' Championship, a third Constructors' Championship in a row for Red Bull, that's very much in doubt. And none other than Peter Windsor. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Peter. I'm not. I feel like he does spread some unsubstantiated rumours at times, I'll be honest. But with this, I think he might have a point. But there's not going to be a way to prove this. Now, before I go into detail about this, I just want to say that I'm not accusing Red Bull of cheating here. I am not saying that they have actively gone out and gone, yeah, we're going to break the regulations, we're going to go around this, and we're going to create an absolute god tier car that nobody can compete with. I'm not saying they've done that. I think they found a loophole in the regulations and they've exploited it, which is exactly what every single Formula 1 team tries to do. And if they're not trying to do it,
they're not doing it right. They are not going for the championship. Teams always, particular teams at the top, because they have exploited some sort of advantage they've found, they always find these loopholes to exploit. And I think that's exactly what Red Bull have done here. And I think that Red Bull device has now been banned as well by F1. I can't go into too much detail about it because this warrants a much longer discussion. If you want a longer discussion on it, go over and watch Tomo's video on YouTube. I think he's fantastic, and I think he's done an incredible video on this. But the long and the short of it for me is that basically there is an alleged braking device on that Red Bull. At least there was anyway. So the rear brakes of the car had some kind of cross brake inertia valve, it's being called. That's what Windsor's called it here. And what that basically means is that there's pretty much a difference between the left side of the brake and the right side of the brake. Think of a differential on a car, a little bit like that, to do with the turning speed of the wheels. This is to do with the brakes. And I don't know how exactly it works, but initially that was not banned in the regulations. That was allowed. The regulations for Formula 1 have since changed, so this is no longer allowed. And this was done between the Chinese and the Miami Grand Prix, which is exactly where Red Bull's pace started to decline. Lando Norris won his first race in his Formula 1 career in Miami, and yes, the pace of the car was still good. Max Verstappen still won plenty of races after that, but in nowhere near as dominant fashion as he was early in the season. Remember, he won Bahrain by like 20 seconds, did the same in Japan as well. The guy was on fire. And even though he's won races since then, it's been nowhere near as convincing, it's been nowhere near as crushing. I mean, look at how much Sergio Perez has been struggling. He hasn't had a podium since China, let alone getting close to a win. So there we go, guys. That's what I think. I think there's been something going on here with Red Bull. But at the end of the day, I am not accusing them of cheating. I'm not saying get them out of the championship, disqualify them. They have seen a loophole in the regulations. They exploited it. They got found out. Those regulations have now changed. They've removed the device on the car and they're suffering because of it. That is my opinion on it. What's yours, guys? Let us know in the comments below, of course. As always, this is a very interesting issue. And people have come out from Red Bull and denied this. There's been a staff member, a designer, I believe, or a mechanic from the Red Bull pit garage who has come out and just basically called rubbish on what Windsor said here. So you have to take it with a pinch of salt. Do you believe the Red Bull mechanic? Do you believe Peter Windsor? Do you believe me? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Let us know in the comments below as always. And of course, for much more F1 content, do keep it tuned right here to the F1Chronicle.com. So when we brought you the news that Sergio Perez had been confirmed to be staying with the Red Bull team for the rest of the 2024 season, there were a lot of rumours about the reasons behind this, and not all of these reasons were to do purely with racing. There were other alleged commercial interests in there as well, not only from Red Bull themselves, but also from the sports organisers and overlords at the moment, Liberty Media. The rumours kind of persisted. I mean, I did a full video already on the channel, but the rumours basically consisted of saying, well, Liberty Media had a documentary that was coming out about Sergio Perez, and they didn't want to look foolish, and they didn't want to, the ratings for this series to tank. Basically, the series was literally called Sergio Perez Never Give Up, and if that coincided with the guy getting sacked mid-season from Red Bull, it would have been rather poor optics. But Dr. Helmut Marko, the advisor to Red Bull Racing, he has said that Liberty were not involved in Perez's future decision. So let's have a look at this. Well, as always, guys, full article on the F1Chronicle.com. But let's read it out. Let's see what it actually says in here. So Marko has hit back at reports suggesting that Formula One's owner, Liberty Media, intervened in Sergio Perez's immediate future. Red Bull held a meeting at Milton Keynes on the day after the Belgian Grand Prix, and most insiders were almost certain that Perez would be ousted for poor performance. However, the brand ultimately decided to keep the struggling 34-year-old next to Max Verstappen at least until the end of this season, with rumours suggesting that Liberty, urged on by Perez's backer Carlos Slim being, I believe, still the richest man in Mexico and one of the richest men in the world. Apparently, he pleaded for Perez to be retained so as to not disturb the attendance at this season's Mexican Grand Prix. That is also a thing as well. I mean, you could have a situation where the Mexican Grand Prix doesn't get sold out because it's just packed with Perez fans, as you would expect. I mean, he's kind of a big deal over there. Marko said, and I quote, reports that his continued commitment is due to Liberty Media's desire to race him in Mexico are not true.
They certainly want him to race his home race, but our choice of driver is not based on Liberty Media's intentions. I mean, it's fair enough, really, but there's other sides to this as well, which I will get into. Red Bull's F1 consultant Marco thinks the upcoming Grand Prix should suit Sergio Perez and insisted he doesn't need to get faster, just more consistent. I don't know, mate, he could do it a bit quicker as well, let's be honest. And given the alternatives, he is still our best solution. That's the key, and that's what I was going to get onto. Given the alternatives. You understand what that means? Basically, if there was someone better, they would have gone with him. But the problem is, at the moment, the three options that are available to them, Liam Lawson has not been involved in Formula 1 this year. He's not been driving in F1. Yes, he did very well last season, but a cameo appearance for, well, about 5 or so cameo appearances for AlphaTauri, as it were then, is not something that will definitely make you think, oh, this guy will definitely be able to come into the Red Bull senior team and produce, because that is an extremely pressured environment, and you've got a certain Max Verstappen alongside you in the car as well. So putting Lawson into the car immediately there is not a good option. Bringing him in for the RB second seat, yeah, I can see that. But Red Bull Racing, no, not quite. Yuki Tsunoda now, again, this is another story we brought you not too long ago. Tsunoda's problem, allegedly, is that they don't think he's mature enough. They don't think he's consistent enough, and they feel like his outbursts on the radio and stuff is a very bad look for the team. Despite Max Verstappen doing something pretty similar. So take that with a pinch of salt. I mean, for what it's worth, I would probably say that Tsunoda going into that Red Bull team, it might not be the biggest disaster, but the problem is that you're going to destroy the guy's career at that point potentially, and going up against Max in the same car is so difficult. And the other option is Daniel Ricciardo, which is probably the best of the three, really. But realistically, is Ricciardo going to want to go to Red Bull to get beat every week by Verstappen? Probably not. So I think that's the key part of it, though. The fact that there isn't a better option right now. There isn't somebody that's waiting in the wings at Red Bull in a junior program or whatever that you think, yeah, they definitely do better than Perez. They all come with an asterisk that says, well, Yuki Tsunoda might do better, but he's not performed in a top team before. He's never driven for a top team. Ricciardo didn't do too bad when he was next to Verstappen in the same car years and years ago, but that was like 6-7 years ago. Can he still do it now? Jury's still out. And Liam Lawson, just too inexperienced to really prove that he's ready for that senior Red Bull drive. He might well be, but the jury is out again. So yeah, also on top of that as well, you've got Liam Lawson, who is going to be announced as, I think is going to be announced as an RB driver in September. And that is what has been said by Marco. They're going to announce what is going to happen. They're going to confirm what is happening with Lawson for next year in September. When in September, don't know. Doesn't say. Could be any date. Could be the 1st, could be the 30th. Anywhere in between there. But yeah, there we go, guys. So what do you think, though? Do you think there's some conspiracy here? Do you think that Sergio Perez was, kept on partly because of Liberty Media, because of Carlos Slim having a word in the ears of the Mexican Grand Prix promoters? Like, who's actually calling the shots here? Or is it just Red Bull making their own decision? What's more likely? I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more video content on F1 just like this.